Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mental Health Myth Busting with That's Mental. Today's myth number 3, is it's easy not to feel down if you turn off your negative thoughts. Again, this is a great myth. Thank you to the person who submitted it. So often mental health is quite misunderstood. People don't really know what it is. There's not a great understanding. We've not talked about it that much, as I've mentioned in previous videos. And so that's why often people compare depression or other mental health issues to just feeling a bit down or feeling a bit blue. And this can happen quite frequently. This means that people also think it's easy to snap out of it because they don't understand it very well, and because there's not yet, been a common discussion about the topic. People think that you can just, get better instantly, you can just switch off your negative thoughts and you can just get back to normal really easily. On the surface, someone might look like they're just a bit down or feeling a bit blue. Actually, what they're going through, especially let's take the example of someone living with depression, what they're going through is a lot more complicated than that. It's a lot more than just feeling down. It's a really difficult situation to deal with, and I can tell you that that person really doesn't want to be feeling that way. And that's probably the hardest part, actually, of living with these mental health issues, is that a lot of us wish we didn't have to experience it. We wish we could just snap out of it. We wish we could do things differently, and unfortunately it's a lot harder than that. So back to the idea of it being easy to not feel down, and to just switch off your negative thoughts. It's really not that easy at all. So for people who are generally optimistic or quite positive, it can seem easy, of course, because you have that positive mindset. You're always thinking about, you're always seeing the positive side of things, and you're, of course, it's true that being positive and having positive thinking feeds that type of feeds that type of behavior, which means that the more positive thoughts you have, the more likely you are to see things positively. So if you're one of those people, you might find it really difficult to understand why people who are suffering with depression or anxiety or other problems cannot just shift their mindset. But the thing is, they don't have as much practice as you do as a positive person. On the contrary, the thoughts that are overwhelming their brains are the negative ones, the ones with fear, the irrational fears, and they can't control that. Or you can, but it's really difficult to control. So that's another reason why people might think it's easy to switch it off if you're used to doing that and you have this ability, but actually for most people it's quite hard. So like I said, for example, with anxiety, you're consumed by irrational fears. And while you may know that it's irrational, the problem is that it just spirals out of control. Irrational fears keep building up and feeding on each other, so it just creates this spiral of fear that's in your brain. For example, what started with a small fear about the dishwasher breaking down might end up being, blowing out of proportion into an irrational fear of there being a huge flood in your apartment that then leaks to all the neighbors' apartments, and so you can no longer live in your apartment. You got kicked out of the house, plus you ruined the neighbor's apartment, and it's going to cost you a ton of money to fix this all. And this is just how the irrational fears work and get out of control. So in that moment, you really don't have the control over these types of thoughts to just switch them off. I think the examples that I gave already illustrated the fact that it's not, it's really not that easy, that these thoughts are bigger or more complicated or scarier than it might seem than just, in a moment feeling a bit down or not enjoying something that you're doing. So the concept of switching it off is just really quite foreign or alien and cannot really be applied to these situations. So what can you do if someone around you is feeling depressed or struggling with a mental health issue and you don't really know how to help them? I can understand that sometimes, the intention behind these types of words, like just switch it off or just stop thinking about it, focus on something else, sometimes it can come with a really good intention. It's just that people don't really know what to do. They want to help you, they see that you're struggling, and they think that this could be an adequate solution for you. So if you don't know what to do for someone who's experiencing this type of problem, first of all, just take a step back. Acknowledge that maybe you don't understand the situation that they're in. Acknowledge that maybe it's more complicated than you think. And don't jump in immediately with advice on how they could make it better. Second of all, I would really recommend just educating yourself, trying to understand where they're coming from, trying to understand what it is that they're experiencing. So, looking up these different types of mental health issues, understanding what they are and how they can affect a person's brain and thoughts and chemistry and what's going on and the complexity of the issue. If you're really struggling but you still want to help them and you don't want to say something that's insensitive, then just say to them, I'm really sorry. It's difficult for me to understand what you're experiencing, but I'm sorry to hear that you're feeling this way. And I hope that you will, I hope that you will get through it soon. Maybe, suggest they find some resources, ask them if they have help. This can be a really good question, actually. Just ask them if they've got help from, be it a professional or someone in their network, a friend or a family member. And like that, you don't have to jump in with advice, unsolicited advice, but you can still show that you're concerned for them. I think that showing our concern is a very important part of being supportive and understanding of people who have mental health issues. So, to sum it up, I would say that mental health issues are really, really complex. And unfortunately, for the time being, there's not a good enough understanding of them. Luckily, the conversation is changing. More and more people are starting to talk about mental health. We're starting to open up about these issues. And so the general knowledge will increase. There will be more resources out there, and this is great. But in the meantime, until we fully understand it, let's try not to make assumptions. Let's, be supportive and not tell people to just switch it off or that it's easy. These statements, not only are they not helpful, but they really spread, a misperception of what mental health is. So if you want to understand more about it, then please also do your research, look it up online. You can also check out my blog and my other videos for more understanding, and just be curious. That's it for today. If you have another myth that you'd like me to bust, then please let me know, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.